Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Osteodontornis class shuttle, the 12th vehicle in my military utility, logistics or transport vehicles series of vehicles. My name is Wimp, and I'm the chief designer, chief builder, chief architect and chief dumbass behind the Osteodontornis class shuttle project. So, this is a new build. That's the wrong button. I want to come out of that view and that view. There we go. Oh, and turn my HUD on. So, this is a new build. There is no original vehicle to show you. You'll be happy to hear. So, first I'm going to talk about its role and its task equipment. So, as I said, it is a shuttle. So, its role as a shuttlecraft is to transport a small number of personnel a short range. So this is a short range transport. Now, in order to facilitate that task, I suppose its equipment would be the thrusters and the seats. Oh, and maybe the oxygen would count for that as well. Okay, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. Okay, so its propulsion, starting with its forward thrust, it has 4 large tier 1s to push it forwards. It then has 4 medium tier 1s for braking and reverse, and for lateral thrust, and for descent thrust. 2, 3, 4. So for ascent, it has 8 medium tier 1s on by default, and it has a max lift function which turns on another 4. So with max lift off, it can operate in up to 4G. That's dry weight, and actually is ever so slightly less. It's actually something like 3.996, but you know, whatever, or 3.968 or 3.669. I don't know. It's a couple of those squiggly numbers, and some of them are upside down compared to the others. It's about there-ish. However, with max lift on, it can lift 52 tons in 4G, and the vehicle itself is 34.7 tons. Handling wise, for its maneuverability with max lift off, it'll accelerate forwards at 32 meters per second squared. It'll do 20 in reverse, laterally and downward, and it'll accelerate upwards at 39 meters per second squared. With max lift on, basically everything stays the same except for its lift, obviously. Goes from 39 to 59. As for its agility, with max lift off, it will roll at 54 degrees per second, pitch at 34, and yaw at 38. With it on, the yaw doesn't change, but the pitch and the roll will. So the pitch will change to 44 and the roll to 66. Handling wise, she flies a bit like this, and you will therefore get a view of out the cockpit window as well. So she's not too bad. It is best to fly it, in my opinion, with pilot mode on though, but then most ships are. As you can see in the top of the right hand bar, she'll do a maximum of apparently 69 out of 70, the best number. If we go into space, we can see what she'll do up there. Here we go, and in space she'll do a maximum of 126. Okay, I'll see you back down on the surface. Right, here we are then, back down at the flattish spot. Here-ish. So that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is its power, fuel and air. Now, as usual with my tours, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and show you where they are when I get to the interior layout. So power, it has 4 generators, large. I think you can have small ones on SVs, not that it really matters. Yes, you can. So it has 4 large generators. Fuel, it has 13 large fuel tanks and a pentaxid tank. It has 6 O2 tanks, 4 air vents. The interior is compartmentalized into 2 compartments, the cockpit and the passenger cabin at the back. And it does also have 2 O2 stations. Moving on to the next segment is its weapons, defences and construction. Starting with its weapons then, it does come armed despite being only a shuttle. It is a military shuttle, but it is only lightly armed still. So it has 2 fixed Gatling guns underneath the cockpit, and it has a single Gatling turret on top. The Gatling turret itself is set to what I consider to be my point defense setting. So it'll target the weapons of small vessels, and it'll do NPCs, drones and players, but not predators or prey. Right. Defences does have a shield, and it also has a small bit of armour, which brings me on to the construction. So this is something new I've been doing recently, and I really like doing it. So it is an unpainted version, so you can see what the blocks are. It does have a structural frame made of hardened steel. Most of the rest is steel. The windows are the hardened windows, the thicker ones. Can we get a name? No, we can't. It just calls them thick. Okay. Now, there is some carbon composite, and it's mostly where it doesn't matter, stuff like there and there. And the illuminated orientation panels are also carbon composite, so these things and the ones all around. Now, it does have a small amount of armour. As you can see, there's a little bit of hardened steel in front of the turret. There is also a little bit here and there, because underneath there is the core. Anything? Oh yeah, and inside the nacelles, to protect the internals, there is a small amount of lag shot armour in steel. For those who don't know, I don't know if this is so much of a problem anymore, but I have still been doing it. Now, one of the problems with doing lag shot armour is it does make the triangle count, the complexity of the vehicle, higher. If I was to fill that in, it wouldn't be quite so complex. But sometimes you'll get a shot from an enemy will lag when it gets to about here or something. The game will now think it's here, and it will carry on travelling. Now, without this kind of spaced armour on the inside, it will keep travelling until it hits something, like a fuel tank or a generator or something. So that's why we do that. Yep, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its resource gathering, production and storage. So resource gathering, as a shuttle, it has none. Production, I could have, but I didn't, so it has none. Storage, it has a 375 SU ammo container. It also has 4 1000 SU cargo containers. It has 3 large and 10 small cargo boxes, 2 armour lockers and a mini fridge. Again, I'll show you where those are in a bit. So the next segment then is its interior layout and any remaining devices. So before we go on to the inside, I'll talk about its remaining devices on the outside. We have the wireless connector there. We have, so you can see these slow flashing lights. There are 8 of them, 4 on top, 4 on the bottom, 1 in each corner respectively. So these are on automatically, and they show any observer that the ship is powered. We also have some, again, like most of my ships, this is fully flight regulation light compliant. So we have the nav lights on the outside, so we have the red on the port, the green on the starboard, and the white on the stern that are controlled by a signal. a custom signal shortcut, actually. Yeah, one of those. We also have some flight strobes. Those are the bright flashing white lights that you often see on the wingtips of planes. Excuse me, I've been drinking tea. So this vehicle only has 2 of them, one on the port and one on the starboard. Now, technically you could include the illuminated orientation panels. Those are its formation lights for flying in formation with other vehicles, especially in low visibility. And then it also has some anti-collision beacons. There's a red one on top and 2 yellow ones on the bottom there, and a matching one on the other side. They come on automatically when you use the main propulsion switch. It has some headlights as well, 3 of them, one on each side of the cockpit and one in the middle, inside. They all point forward. These ones on the outside aren't diagonal. Obviously, we have some landing gear. Yeah, oh, no. So we also have some registration displays. So, this is for the vehicle itself. No, it's not. This is for the vehicle itself. There we go. And you may have noticed at the beginning there's also the same on the sides. So it's always pretty obvious which LCD projectors these registration displays are attached to. So that one's for that, obviously. Now, in case you care, I will go through this real quick. Wimpo Manufacturing, Transport, Shuttle, MULTV, Military Utility Logistics Transport Vehicles. This is the 12th. And then you would put the number here that this one, or your one, is. So if your one is the 137th, you would change that to 137. Of course, there's no real way to know with these smaller vehicles. I had the same problem with the Shuttle pod, the one before this. If you have 8 of them, you're not necessarily going to know whether yours is, you know, number 137, 138, 139, blah, blah, blah. Nobody else is going to know that either, so there may be others of the same number. Doesn't really matter, it's just a bit of the lore. So, this registration display on the sides of the top, you'll notice is slightly different. So this is supposed to be the registration of the vehicle that it's attached to, the larger capital vessel. So, for example, I mean, I don't know why I've put multi-V, but without that, it would all be, I mean, what would they be? Question marks? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, number. So, for example, later on in the other info bit, I'm going to go up into the orbit, apparently, and show you the Commando class orbital assault ship. So, if this one was attached to the orbital assault ship, or a orbital assault ship, which is going to be the 13th vehicle in the multi-V series, and this was Shuttle, no, and the Commando class that it's attached to, if it was, for example, the 8th, and this was the 69th, why not? That would then read multi-V 13, the 008, the 8th of the 13th multi-V, and this shuttlecraft would be number 69, is the idea. Even if, so, I doubt you'd have 69 shuttles on that ship, but you know what I mean. So this number might not necessarily be the same as that number, because this is how many Osteodontornis classes there are, and then this one is how many of them are aboard the ship. Anyway, right, so interior layout. Let's turn the signals back on. And let's go in through the back door, giggity. The ramp, the door, and 3 lights, that one, and that one, are all on that motion sensor there. I'm not going to bother telling you everything in here, because clearly you can see quite a lot of it. Some bits that you can't see I will show you about. For example, I will show you about, tell you about, and show you. O2 tank in there. There's also one above the O2 station in that little corner there. There's another one there. that light switch will leave the lights in here on for if you get in the seat. There's two of them, that one and that one. As you can probably tell, they are also on a motion sensor, that one there. But I'm sure you know that when you get in a seat, you're no longer in motion, so the motion sensor doesn't detect you. So if you want to leave them on, you flick the switch. Right, so there's one of the 1000 SU containers, there's another one, and here's the other two. Behind these shutters are component access. Again, I'm not going to bother telling you because you can clearly see what's there, except that this is the ammo box, the 375. Obviously, there's a gravity generator in here as well. Detector is on the ceiling. Now, before I go into the cockpit, I am going to phase through the wall because behind these is fuel. Which is why, by the way, there is some lag shot armour because of the fuel behind it and the generators. Now, I do obviously understand that the generators are targetable and the detector, and that might mean you might lose the CPU extenders and, you know, the fuel might blow up first because they're on the outside. I'm not too worried because this isn't a combat vehicle. So you will have to be slightly careful if your shields go down. Oh, I'm slightly in the floor, aren't I? There we go. Okay, that door is automatic, that motion sensor. Into the cockpit, you can see some stuff, some more stuff on the other side. The light in here is on that motion sensor. It's also on that switch, so again, when you get in the seat, you can leave them on. Pilot, co-pilot, so I did some checking on one of my other vehicles to see on which side do pilots usually fly something like a Black Hawk or whatever, and they're usually on the right. Obviously it's not going to matter because these are both pilot seats, but I have named that one pilot seat and the one on the other side co-pilot. And as you can see, we also have some heads-up displays that tells you some information. The ones along the bottom are the device group toggles and the signal toggles. So that one and that one are the same. It's so that each seat can view both information at the same time. This one can be seen by both. We have a little bit of fluff at the top. So this one tells you about the power. Now, the mathematically inclined among you will notice that doesn't add up to 100%. It's not supposed to. That's how much of the full amount of power the shields, the thrusters, and the... Oh, hang on a minute. Have I got those two? No, I don't know. Because the shields is 3,600, isn't it? So, yeah, it only uses... It's used 60%. Anyway, so that number there... Hang on. That 17.5% is how much of the total power all of the thrusters would use if they were all thrusting at the same time. Obviously, that's not possible. That number there is how much power is used when everything is on, and it only actually counts the forward thrust, max lift and lift thrusting, and either of the lateral sides. So there you go, that's what that is. Next one is its lift performance, so you can see what you can carry. Now, obviously, the additional is how much more you can carry above and beyond the 34.7 tons. There, so in this heads-up display, I tell you that you can lift 52 tons in 4G, whereas here it says 17.3. Well, again, the mathematically inclined might be able to tell that 17.3 plus 34.7 is 52. So, yeah, you can lift yourself, and that is the idea. And then over here, the next one is the power save. This tells you what will turn off when you turn on the power save signal. The astute among you, if you have other vehicles of mine, will notice that passenger seats are missing from there. I thought they used power because you can turn them off, and actually they don't. So there we go. Right, so with these I'm going to use to transition onto the next segment, which is its shortcuts and signals. So the first device group shortcut is the main propulsion, so that will turn on all of the main thrusters that you saw were on earlier on, and it will turn on the anti-collision beacons. So there's the red flashy one on top, there's the yellow ones underneath. So the next one, max lift, will turn on the max lift thrusters. Those are the 4 extra ones that weren't on earlier. I believe it's that one, the same on the other side, and that one. So the frontmost and the rearmost. Okay, the next one down is its weapons. That will turn on the turret on top and the 2 Gatling guns. The next one is empty. In case you're wondering why there are empty ones in between ones in use, it's because roughly on my SVs and CVs, I keep them all in the same order, even if that means there's empty ones in between. So for example, this one might be mining drills on a vehicle that has him. I've said this in other videos as well. I really should have done that with the HVs as well, but I didn't think about it. Never mind. Artificial gravity is the next one down. Obviously that will turn on the gravity generator. An empty one again, and then air vents. Now, in case you've seen other tours of mine before, I will cover this really quickly, so you don't have to sit through a long explanation, but for those who haven't, I will explain it still. If we have a look at the power left and we turn oxygen off, the power left doesn't change, because although the ventilators are no longer blowing air into the interior, the ventilators blocks themselves are still on. So I've given you a switch to turn them off, and you'll see that the power left does change. So if you're in a breathable atmosphere, you can save a bit of power. Moving on to the custom signals, we have the power save switch. Now turning the power save on will turn off the Wi-Fi, the motion sensors and levers. So all the doors and stuff become manual. It'll also turn off the cockpit displays, so all of these, and the registry displays on the outside. 2 empty ones, nav lights and flight strobes. Let's turn those on just so you can see. I'm not in God mode. So again, red on the port, green on the starboard, white on the stern. The flight strobes are, as I said earlier, the bright flashy ones. Yes. And then finally is the headlight switch. Now obviously you can just use the keybind as well, but I wanted to give you the option, I suppose. Right, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its CPU and upgrading. So the astute among you would have noticed that it's tier 3, because you saw the tier 3 CPU extenders when I retracted the component access shutters. There is plenty of CPU usage to play with. There's almost 11,000 left over. Which brings me on to... Oh, hang on. Just in case you're skipping around in the video, there's the core. Oh, I didn't show you where the shield was either when I came in here. It's up there, hidden in that little cubby hole. So, upgrading. So, it does have a slight upgrade path-ish. It has a couple of upgrade slots. They're not earmarked for anything, but in these shutters on top, you will find a 5x1 gap that you can put extra stuff in. Now, if you take out the space lag shot armour as well, you can increase that. And these blocks as well, if you're not too worried about stuff getting blown up, you can in fact make this space bigger. Now that's the only inbuilt upgrade path, except for taking out the armour I just said, but you know, whatever. However, that doesn't mean you can't personalise it. For example, what I would do if this was mine and it was just me using it, I would copy that heads-up display off of that LCD projector and paste it into that LCD projector so that this heads-up display became that. I would then rip out that block and that projector and maybe that block as well, probably replace the headlight with armour, and then move one of these seats to the middle, take out the other one, so that you are now sat right in the centre of the cockpit. And then using the LCD projector job is move them in a bit so that they were then visible while you're in the seat, is what I would do in here. Something you can do in here as well. So I'm not going to bother doing it fully and properly, but if you take out all of this stuff on one side, the seats and the bits around them, and that container as well, and then you took out the blocks that were behind all of that, and I'm sure you can see what's coming because it's on my hotbar. I think you need to take that one as well, that block. So if you get the orientation right, let's put it in that way, you can actually, can I get it? Can I get it? There you go. You can actually fit a warp drive in here. Whether you put it there or up a block is up to you. I don't know what you do with the rest. Maybe move the container that you just removed, put it underneath or above or whatever. Speaking of containers, if you then sort of did the same over on this side, if you didn't care about that switch and any of this, yeah, why not? So take out that, and then all of the blocks behind again, and I'm sure you can see where I'm going now since I mentioned containers. So there's the extensions for this box. You fill that space in and you've got yourself a bigger box. I don't know what. I will edit this bit to see what it's going to be. Okie dokie, so with that gap filled in, I've left this space. You could add, well, up to there at least, because you can't connect to there. But so with that filled in, it comes to 5,000. That's a nice round number, isn't it? Oh, of course it is, yeah, because four of these is 500. Yes, it is, yeah. So there we go. That's something else you could do in here if you weren't too worried about moving people about. Obviously, there might need to be a bit of painting done, but I'm sure that's not beyond you. Oh, and the warp drive, I have... No, I haven't. I thought I had left you a warp drive device group, but I haven't. Oh, I should have pointed this out in the signals and shortcuts. Please don't use the auto group, because some of these rely on the groups that I've set up, and if you auto group it, it might break some of that stuff. Oh, and personalising the paint scheme. So I've given you 4 primary colours to choose from in the colour palette here. I'm sure it goes without saying that you can, you know, change the colours to whatever you want. You could change it to pink if you really wanted to. Is that? No, God, that's horrible. How'd you get pink? Is it blue? Yeah, there you go. So you could do that if you really wanted to. Now, it comes in the khaki tan, as you can see. It also comes with a camouflage green option. It comes also with a light blue-grey, as proven by the slightly more blues than the others. And also a dark blue-grey. Again, slightly more blues than the others. Right, so for those of you who have seen other tours of mine, you will notice that this is a new segment. Now, if you're only interested in the capabilities of the ship, you can sort of disregard the next bit, because it's mostly behind the scenes sort of stuff. So the next and last segment then is other info. And for this other info, we need to go into orbit. Right, here we are at my construction area. And I want to talk about that a little bit. So I mentioned it earlier. This is going to be the Commando class orbital assault ship. So this was originally going to be the 11th vehicle. However, I decided to do the shuttlecraft first, and here's why. So this is an orbital assault ship. If you have ever seen the movie Aliens, plural, so this is akin to the Conestoga class USS Sulaco. It's meant to carry Marines with a dropship and an APC, just like in the movie. However, unlike in the movie, it carries a more sensible number of crew. So that ship there is designed to carry 3 of my Quetzalcoatlus class dropships. These things in a large bay at the bottom. Now these things with their big hangar bay are designed to carry one of these. This is my Lynx APC from the Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicles series. Now that ship can carry 6 of these, and these can carry 1 each. So with 3 of those they'd need to go drop them off, come back for the other 3. Now these APCs can carry a full section of 8 infantrymen. Now the Commando class will also be able to carry 6 of these giant Marabou dropships, which also are designed to carry a full section of 8 men, plus a couple of officers or specialists or whatever. Obviously that adds up to quite a few soldiers, or Marines actually, because it's meant to be Marines. I suppose it could also be used for mobile infantry or something, mechanized infantry. And that will also carry, technically, 8 of these with 4 each of the pods that go in the middle, and there are 3 pods, a cargo pod, a medical pod, and a personnel pod. That will also... so those and the giant Marabous will be in the top bay, which is basically that bit of the ship. Now, why I'm telling you all this is because it also has a shuttle bay on the front. Now, when I come to take all the screenshots of this, I will of course be taking screenshots of the bays empty, but also I'm going to be taking a screenshot of the bays with the intended attached complement of craft. So in the top bay I will put in for one of the screenshots the correct number of these, and in the bottom one the correct number of these with some of these. But then when it came to the shuttle bay, I had nothing to go in them, so I decided I wanted to do the shuttlecraft now before I'd finished that. Now the Commando class has taken a really long time because it's massive. So I also get the added benefit of these 2 shuttlecraft are breaking it up for me. Now, the design of this is based upon... Oh, there's the Osteodontornis, by the way, that it's named after. So like all of the SVs in the MULTV series, they are named after extinct flying animals. So you might notice the Quetzalcoatlus is a large tyrannosaur, a large pterosaur, right? The Argentavis is a large bird, eagle-ish. The giant Marabou is a large stork. The Dimorphodon is a small pterosaur. And now the Osteodontornis is a group of sort of albatrossy gull-type birds, all extinct, as I said. Now, my Osteodontornis shuttle is based loosely on the Anvil C8 Pisces from the ever-in-development Star Citizen. However, I'm sure you can see some differences. So basically, I wanted my C8 Pisces version to have the cockpit of one of these Argentavises, or a similar cockpit. It is slightly different, but you know, based upon. And then I wanted the side pod nacelle things from, it's sort of both of these actually. So this shoulder shape I took from this and then put on this, made it smaller. And then I decided I wanted an even smaller shoulder shape to be the front of the nacelle. Now the back of the nacelle is based upon the back of this nacelle from this one, except it slopes in the other direction is the idea. So that one slopes forward from the inside to the outside, and this one slopes backward from the inside to the outside. So there you go. That's the inspiration of the ship and stuff, and why it's in fact the 12th in the MULTV series was because that was going to be the 11th, but I wanted to do these first. So there we go. I mean, really, I would have liked these to have been MULTV1 and MULTV2, or maybe after the ground vehicles. So maybe 8 and 9. No, 7 and 8. Yeah, that's right. But never mind. I didn't think about them at the time. If you watch the tour of the Dimorphodon, I do say that they are transport vehicles. So I do think that military shuttles would fit in the MULTV series. I was going to say I agree. I agree with myself. I mean, obviously I would. Why would you disagree with yourself? So there we go. Oh, no, there's one more thing. One more thing to do, and I do it always in my tours. Like I've said before, I don't really know why, but I think it helps you feel like lets you feel like you're part of the process a little bit. I like to publish it during the video. There it is. Right, so thank you very much for taking an interest in the Osteodontornis class shuttle. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.